Hey there, welcome to Pulse of the People, where real voices get heard. We dive deep, speak boldly, and break down social and political issues from the people's point of view, raw, honest, and unfiltered.
Great to be diving in again.
So, did you catch the recent buzz out of D.C.? Former president made a return, and the reports swirling around what happened on Air Force One.
Yeah.
Well, they've really got people talking.
Oh, yeah. Quite a bit came out of that trip back from Mar-a-Lago.
Exactly. We've sifted through those reports, trying to get to the core of what was said and, what it might tell us. So today, we're going to dive into those details. Donald Trump's arrival back in Washington. Our aim here is really to pull out the most significant themes, the notable points from that impromptu press conference on the plane, and his later statements, too.
Sounds good. There's definitely a lot to unpack.
Yeah, let's get into it then. One of the, stranger items reported, I guess, was a comment apparently made about dolls.
Right, the doll comment. A bit out of left field.
Yeah. The suggestion was that young girls don't need a huge number of dolls, like maybe just 2, 3, 4, 5 would do.
And maybe they should cost more. That was part of it too, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And this apparently came up during what some reports called an awful impromptu press conference.
It's interesting, right? A comment like that, seemingly offhand. Sometimes it offers a little window into maybe a particular mindset about value or sufficiency.
Or maybe even like a nostalgic view.
Could be. It just stands out because you don't expect it in that kind of, political back and forth.
Definitely stands out. Okay, then moving to how reporters were treated on Air Force One. Reports mentioned figure wagging, yelling, and what some called bizarre questioning. Like repeatedly asking reporters, where are you from? Who are you with?
Yeah, that direct, sometimes confrontational style with the press. It's something we've seen before, isn't it?
For sure.
Those questions, who are you with? But you could read them a few ways. Maybe trying to suss out bias.
Or maybe just a tactic to put them on the spot.
Possibly. Creates a different kind of interaction, definitely more challenging for the reporter.
And then, things got pretty pointed towards the Wall Street Journal.
Oh, yes. That was quite something.
Called an agent of China. Very bad people.
And a rotten newspaper. Really strong terms.
And he mentioned Rupert Murdoch owning both the Journal and Fox.
Right, drawing that connection.
And I basically said he wouldn't talk to the Journal. A waste of time, he reportedly claimed.
Labeling a major news outlet like that, especially as a foreign agent, that's significant. It really impacts or seeks to impact their credibility, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it raises questions about that whole dynamic between politicians and the press.
And the ownership link just adds another layer, you know? Media influence, coverage angles. It's complex.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. The topic of immigrant trials reportedly came up.
Ah, yes, the due process question.
Right. The argument being made was that, look, there are just too many people. You can't have individual trials for every single illegal immigrant. It's just not practical.
And there was frustration mentioned, aimed at judges who want to provide those trials that due process.
Yeah, exactly. Claims that each trial could take weeks, maybe months.
And that the Supreme Court wouldn't stand for it. That was the assertion.
It was even suggested, reportedly, that not streamlining this, not skipping trials, could lead to the downfall of the country.
Wow. Linking it directly to national survival.
And referencing his election victory, saying voters chose him on this issue.
It really throws that tension into sharp relief, doesn't it, between fundamental legal rights like due process and the logistical practical challenges of the immigration system.
It's a huge challenge.
And predicting the Supreme Court's stance. That's always a bit of projection, It frames the issue with incredibly high stakes.
Definitely. Then there were statements about making deals with other countries.
The trade talk?
Yeah. The reported stance was very unilateral, like, I don't need to negotiate.
Set my own deals?
Exactly. Make up the number, send the deal, and that's it. Other countries don't set the terms.
Because they've been ripping us off for years. That was the justification given, right?
That was the claim. And he mentioned meeting with almost all of them, including China.
But the approach seems to be less about mutual agreement and more about dictation.
Kind of sounds like it. Like, sometimes deals will be signed, but ultimately he'll be setting a tariff.
And there's a contrast drawn with the current situation, claiming the country is losing $5 billion a day, so they're not dealing with China because of high tariffs.
Right, which is interesting because it contrasts with a past promise he apparently made. Something about 90 deals in 90 days.
And the report noted he'd done zero deals so far on that front.
It's a very different vision of international relations compared to traditional diplomacy, that's for sure.
It absolutely is. Dictating terms versus negotiating.
Yeah.
It has huge economic and geopolitical ripple effects you have to consider. And those claims about trade losses, they really invite a closer look at the actual data.
Good point. Then the conversation reportedly touched on sending U.S. troops into Mexico.
To deal with the cartels, yeah. That's a recurring idea we've heard floated.
Describing cartels as horrible people, killing people left and right.
Making fortunes on drugs, destroying lives. The language was very strong.
And citing a huge number, 300,000 people lost to fentanyl and drugs last year.
Which is a devastating statistic, no doubt, about the severity of the crisis.
And the report suggests he told Mexico he'd be honored to go in and do it if they wanted help.
Framing the cartels as evil and trying to destroy our country.
Sending U.S. military into another sovereign country, though? That's a massive step.
Oh, absolutely. The legal, the ethical, the diplomatic implications are enormous. You can't just do that without serious thought about international law and the relationship with Mexico.
It's a really serious proposition.
It is. Addressing trafficking is vital, but the method proposed here is, well, it's highly controversial.
Okay, so shifting to the economy. What about that? Claims that all costs are down.
Right. Except for, what was it?
The thing that you carry the babies around in.
Oh, baby carriers.
Yes. Very specific exception.
But otherwise, energy's down, gasoline's down, people paying a lot less for groceries.
Even interest rates and mortgage rates are down, according to these claims.
In the first 100 days. Best numbers we've ever had.
Accompanied by allegations of fake polls interviewing too many Democrats.
So, quite a rosy picture painted there.
It is. And when you hear broad claims like all costs are down, it's always important to, look at the bigger picture, check various economic indicators, data sources.
Like inflation indices.
Exactly. Composite indices give a broader view than just picking out a few items like gas or groceries, and things like interest rates, mortgage rates, employment figures. That data is publicly available.
So you can verify.
You can get a more comprehensive view, yes. And the fake polls claim, that's a common refrain in politics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Always worth looking at polling methodology carefully.
True. There was also a quick mention of a Mike Walls situation.
Oh, the National Security Advisor?
Yeah, denying he was fired, saying he was just moved, and labeling the media fake for reporting it as a firing.
These kinds of discrepancies between official lines and media reports, they happen, right?
They do. It often highlights that tension over controlling the narrative, how information gets out, different versions of the same event.
And then, in a really unexpected turn, the idea of reopening Alcatraz.
Yeah, that one was surprising. Alcatraz.
The rationale seemed tied back to the immigration issue, to radicalized judges wanting trials for everyone.
So repurposing a closed prison, now a national park.
As a symbol of law and order, with quite a history, even though it was closed partly because it was inefficient and expensive to run.
It's certainly a novel idea. Using a place like Alcatraz for immigration detention, it carries huge symbolic weight, doesn't it?
It really does.
But framing it as a response to judges upholding due process and calling it a symbol of law and order, it evokes a very specific, maybe harsh image. And you have to wonder about the practicality, let alone the appropriateness.
Definitely raises questions. Now, it's really important we mention this, too. The reporting we looked at included some counterpoints.
Okay.
Specifically suggesting that federal spending is actually up, not down.
Contradicting the economic claims.
Yeah. And that potential shortfalls in tax revenue could add trillions to the deficit. Maybe $200 billion just in the short term.
Those are crucial fiscal points. Government spending, revenue, the deficit they provide, really important context for any claims about economic health. If there are discrepancies between claims and, say, budget office figures, that needs attention.
Good context to have.
Okay.
Nearly there. Finally, there was talk about tariffs on movies produced overseas.
Tariffs on movies, okay.
The argument was that other nations have been, quote, stealing the movie-making capabilities from the United States.
Stealing them? How?
Leading to the decline of Hollywood, apparently.
Yeah.
Blamed partly on an incompetent governor.
Huh. Interesting theory.
And the idea is that foreign governments are funding their film industries, which poses a threat to the U.S. industry.
So protectionism for Hollywood, essentially.
Seems like it. He reportedly claimed to have done very strong research and observed very few movies being made now.
Which seems counterintuitive, but okay.
And that Hollywood is being destroyed.
Right.
But also reportedly that movie makers love this tariff idea.
Right. Applying trade protectionism to the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
It's an old debate in a new context. The argument about unfair competition versus the benefits of global production.
And do movie makers really love it?
That would be interesting to verify. Tariffs could have really complex effects on international co-productions, global distribution.
Yeah.
Maybe some love it, maybe others don't. It's likely not that simple.
Likely not. So just to sum up the tone described in the reporting we saw, it was strong.
How so?
The source used words like disastrous, awful, bizarre, demented, deranged, vile, pathetic, humiliating.
Wow, very strong language.
Yeah, even suggesting that if someone acted like this in everyday life, they might need a psychiatric evaluation and shouldn't lead anything.
Okay, well, that's certainly how the source characterized it. It's important to note that perception, but our focus here is more on unpacking the substance of the remarks themselves, right?
Exactly. So trying to understand the content and the potential implications. So, wow, we've just gone through quite a few key moments and claims from that D.C. return and the related remarks. It definitely gives you a lot to consider about the perspectives and approaches being talked about.
It really does. These reported events, these statements, they raise big questions, don't they? About communication style, about policy ideas, how facts get interpreted or presented.
For sure.
And you have to ask, what are the potential ripple effects for the social landscape, the political discourse? And maybe for you, the listener, what other information would you want to find to really form your own informed view on all this?
Great points to ponder. Well, thanks for tuning in to Pulse of the People. If you found value in our deep dive today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Your engagement really helps.
Catch you in the next episode where your voice always matters.